I discovered my family secret, no buzzkills group chat where I'm listed as Uncle ATM. You know that feeling when you're sitting in a corporate meeting and everyone's throwing around words like synergy and paradigm shift, but all you can think about is getting your hands dirty with something real? That was me last Tuesday. 45 years old, lead software architect at a Fortune 500 company. Trapped in conference room B while Brad from marketing explained his revolutionary approach to customer engagement. I wasn't listening. I was mentally installing a new 4-barrel carburetor on my 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429. Here's the thing about life. There are two types of people in this world. Those who create something with their own hands, feeling every bolt, every wire, every drop of sweat that goes into making something beautiful. Then there are those who create PowerPoint presentations about how other people create things. I've been living in both worlds for 20 years now. Only one of them feeds my soul. The Mustang wasn't just a car. Never was. It was the last thing Dad and I worked on together before the cancer took him. Every weekend for 3 years, we've been in that garage, him teaching me about compression ratios while secretly teaching me about life. The smell of motor oil mixed with his Old Spice cologne, that's what home smelled like to me. 5 years ago, everything changed. My sister Sarah's husband walked out, just packed his bags one Tuesday and disappeared. Can't say I blamed him entirely, but that's another story. Dad was already sick by then, confined to his bed most days. I remember sitting beside him, the monitors beeping, that antiseptic hospital smell burning my nostrils. He grabbed my hand with what little strength he had left, his exact words still echo in my head. He looked at me with those tired eyes and said, I was a strong one, that Sarah wasn't built for this world the same way I was. He made me promise to take care of her and Kevin, my nephew. Made me swear I wouldn't let them fall. What do you say to your dying father? You promise. You promise even when you know it's going to cost you everything. Dad passed 2 weeks later. The Mustang sat in my garage, half restored, waiting. Every time I worked on it, I felt him there with me. It became my meditation, my church, my therapy. While my co-workers went to yoga or CrossFit, I went to my garage and turned wrenches. There's something pure about mechanical work. Either the engine runs or it doesn't. No office politics, no manipulation, just honest cause and effect. But that promise to Dad, it became my cage, one guilt bar at a time. A typical week of my life was a blur of notifications and guilt trips. Sarah would text a photo of Kevin looking dejected at his ancient 2-year-old laptop, claiming his creative spirit was dying. Mom would call about Sarah's stress-induced blood pressure, wondering if I wanted my sister to have a stroke. I'd stare at my Route 66 road trip brochure, Chicago to Santa Monica, just me and the Mustang, then sigh and approve another transfer. 1,800 here, 200 there. The ATM never closed. You know, I've been reading this philosophy stuff lately. Try and make sense of it all. Seneca, the old Roman guy, he wrote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. I laughed when I read that. Dark laugh, but still. I thought, buddy, you obviously never had a younger sister who treated you like a walking ATM. But then again, maybe he did. Romans had family drama too, right? The thing is, I kept telling myself it was temporary. Sarah would get back on her feet. Kevin would grow up, get a job, become independent. Mom would stop calling with guilt trips. I'd eventually take that road trip. The Mustang would purr down Route 66, and I'd finally understand what freedom felt like. This particular Friday evening started like an oasis. The weekend stretched before me with promise. 2 whole days in the garage. I had a new alternator ready to install, maybe even get the suspension work. The Mustang was almost there, maybe 90% restored. The paint job still needed work, but mechanically, she was going to purr like a giant metal kitten. I'm driving home, windows down, actually feeling good for once. The radio's playing CCR, Fortunate Son, and I'm drumming on the steering wheel. I turn onto my street, already mentally in my garage, hands covered in grease. Then I see them, the flashing lights. You know that feeling when your stomach drops so fast you think it might fall out of your body? When time slows down and speeds up simultaneously. That was me, seeing those red and blue lights in my driveway. My first thought wasn't about the Mustang. It was about Kevin. Was he hurt? Was he okay? Even after everything, that was my first instinct. Worry about my nephew. Family training runs deep, I guess. I pull up, and the scene becomes clear in devastating high definition. There's my Mustang. Was my Mustang. Now it's modern art, abstract sculpture, a testament to the meeting of classic American muscle, and an immovable oak tree that's been on my property since before I was born. The front end is crumpled like aluminum foil. The hood I'd spent 40 hours restoring is folded in half. Fluids leak onto my driveway like the car is bleeding out. But that's not what broke me. Not the car. Not the thousands of hours of work destroyed. Not the memories with Dad twisted into scrap metal. It was Kevin. He's standing there, leaning against the cop car, scrolling through his phone. Not shaking. Not crying. Not even looking at the wreckage. Just scrolling, like he's waiting for an Uber. The cop is trying to talk to him, but Kevin's giving these one-word answers, clearly annoyed at the interruption to his social media time. I hear him tell the officer that the road was slick. It had been dry for 2 weeks. Then he says something that hits me like a physical blow. He actually says, with his bored tone like he's ordering a coffee, that it's not a big deal because I have insurance anyway. The cop sees me and walks over. He's got that look, part sympathy, part professional distance. Tells me Kevin took the car without permission, but since he's family, it's up to me whether to press charges. Says the kid admitted he was reaching for his phone when he lost control. 18 years old, and he destroyed 5 years of work because he couldn't wait 30 seconds to check a text. I walk over to Kevin. He finally looks up from his phone. No apology in his eyes. No shame. Just mild irritation, like I'm about to lecture him about taking out the trash. He actually rolls his eyes when I approach. That's when he says it, the words that would echo in my head for weeks. He looks at the Mustang, then at me and shrugs. Actually shrugs. Then he says it's just an old car anyway, and asks if he can go because he's supposed to game online with his friends in an hour. Just an old car. 5 years of my life. $20,000 of parts. Countless hours with my father's ghost. Dreams of freedom crushed against a tree because my nephew couldn't keep his hands off his phone for a 5-minute drive. I stand there looking at him. This kid I've been supporting since his father left. This kid whose laptop I bought, whose gaming setup I funded, whose entire lifestyle I've been bankrolling. He's checking his phone again, texting someone about being late to their online game. The cop asks again if I want to press charges. Kevin doesn't even flinch. He knows I won't. They all know I won't. Good old Mark, the family ATM. Always open, always dispensing, never complaining. That's who I am. That's who I've always been. I tell the cop no charges. Family matter. He nods, gives me his card, says the report will be ready Monday for insurance. Kevin immediately starts walking toward the house, already pulling up some app on his phone. He doesn't look back at the car. Doesn't look back at me. Doesn't say sorry. Doesn't say anything. I stand in my driveway as the tow truck arrives, watching them load what's left of my dreams onto the flatbed. The driver, an older guy with grease under his fingernails, a kindred spirit, whistles low and says it's a shame about such a beautiful car. Says it looks like it was loved. I just nod. Can't trust my voice. As the truck pulls away, I look at the oak tree. There's blue paint embedded in the bark now. The tree barely has a scratch. It'll outlive us all. There's probably a metaphor there, but I'm too numb to figure it out. I turn toward my house. Kevin's gaming setup is lighting up his bedroom window. The RGB lights I paid for dancing in patterns. I can hear him laughing with his friends through the open window. Not a care in the world. Why would he care? Uncle Mark will fix it. Uncle Mark always fixes everything. I stand there in my driveway, oil stains at my feet, looking at that window, hearing his careless laughter float down like salt in my wounds. Something inside me, something I've been holding together with promises and guilt and duty for 5 years, cracks. Not breaks, not yet, but cracks. Like a hairline fracture in metal that you know is about to give way. In that moment, Standing in the ruins of my dreams while my nephew laughs above me, I know with absolute clarity, something has to change. The ATM is about clothes. The ATM was about to close, but apparently nobody got the memo. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. My phone explodes. Not literally, though that would have been less painful than what actually happened. Sarah's calling. I let it ring twice, take a deep breath, and answer. Big mistake. She doesn't start with, "I'm sorry about your car." She doesn't ask if I'm okay. She launches straight into attack mode. Her voice pitched at that frequency that only younger sisters can achieve, somewhere between righteous indignation and a smoke alarm. She tells me I traumatized her baby, her 18-year-old, 6-foot-tall baby who destroyed my car while texting. Apparently, I made Kevin feel like a criminal over, and I quote from memory here, "some stupid piece of metal." She actually used those words. 5 years of restoration work. 20 grand in parts. The last connection to my dead father. Just a stupid piece of metal. Then came the kicker. She said Kevin hadn't slept all night because of the way I looked at him. The way I looked at him. Not because he destroyed something precious. Not because he took without asking. But because I had the audacity to look disappointed. I tried to get a word in. Tried to explain about the Mustang, about Dad, about the years of work. But Sarah had momentum now, and stopping her mid-rant was like trying to stop a freight train with a feather. She went on about how I'd always been jealous of Kevin's youth, how I was trying to hold him back, how this was really about my own failures in life. My failures. I'm sitting in my paid-off house, looking at my home office where I make 6 figures designing software systems, and she's calling me a failure from her rental that I helped pay for. The irony was thick enough to spread on toast. 20 minutes into her performance, she delivered her closing argument. She informed me that she'd already told Kevin he wasn't at fault, that accident happened, and that Uncle Mark would understand once he calmed down and stopped being so materialistic. Materialistic. Me, the guy who drives a 10-year-old Honda to work, because I spent all my car money keeping their lights on. Before I could respond, she hung up, just like that. Nuclear strike delivered, communication terminated. An hour later, Mom called. Her approach was different. Softer, more manipulative. She had that disappointed mother voice down to an art form. You know the one. It's like being gently stabbed with a butter knife made of guilt. She started with how proud Dad would be that I'd become so successful. Then came the pivot. But you know, she said, he'd be heartbroken to see me putting possessions over family. Cars come and go, she reminded me, but family is forever. She actually said that, like it was written on a Hallmark card somewhere. Then she played her ace. She mentioned how stressed Sarah has been lately, how her blood pressure was acting up, how the doctor was concerned. The subtext was clear. If Sarah has a stroke, it's on you, all because you couldn't forgive a simple mistake. A simple mistake. Like Kevin had spilled milk, not destroyed years of memories at 40 miles per hour. I asked Mom if anyone was planning to help pay for the repairs. The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, she said that wasn't the point. The point was forgiveness. The point was family. The point was moving forward. She suggested I should be grateful Kevin wasn't hurt. And I was. I really was. But couldn't I be grateful he was okay and upset about the car? Apparently not. In their world, it was binary. Either you care about family, or you care about things. No middle ground. No nuance. No consideration that maybe, just maybe, the thing represented something more than metal and paint. 3 days passed. 3 days of radio silence while I dealt with insurance adjusters, tow yards, and repair estimates. The Mustang could be fixed technically. $18,000 and about 6 months of work. The insurance would cover 12 grand, maybe. The rest would be on me. Again. Then Wednesday afternoon, Sarah called with what she described as wonderful news. Her voice had that fake enthusiasm that meant she wanted something. Something big. She'd been thinking, she said, this whole incident with the car was actually a blessing in disguise. It was a wake-up call that Kevin needed direction in life. He needed purpose. He needed, wait for it, to attend a prestigious private university. Berkeley, Stanford, Yale. She was throwing out names like she was picking restaurants for lunch. She'd done the research. She informed me. A good private college, the kind that would really set Kevin up for success, would run about $240,000 for 4 years. But here's the beautiful part. She said beautiful. I actually use that word. Since I was already planning to spend money on car repairs, why not invest it in Kevin's future instead? Invest. Like Kevin was a stock option. Like there would be returns on this investment. Like he wouldn't drop out after 1 semester to become a full-time gaming influencer. She framed it as a win-win. Kevin gets an education. I get to be the uncle who changed his life, and we all move past this unfortunate incident. She kept calling it an incident, like it was a weather event. The Mustang incident of 2025. When I didn't immediately agree, she shifted tactics. She mentioned Kevin's emotional trauma from the accident, how he needed something positive to focus on, how college would give him the fresh start he deserved. After destroying my car, he deserved a $250,000 education. Then came the guilt grenades. Dad would want this. Dad would understand that education is more important than a car. Dad would be proud to see me stepping up for family. She was weaponizing our dead father to extract money from me. It was actually impressive in its audacity. I told her I needed to think about it. She said there was nothing to think about. Family helps family. Then she mentioned that early admission deadlines were coming up, so I shouldn't think too long. The pressure was subtle as a sledgehammer. Friday afternoon, Kevin showed up at my door. First time he'd come by since the accident. He said he was there to help with the insurance paperwork. Help. That was rich. He walked in like he owned the place, grabbed a Coke from my fridge without asking, and sprawled on my couch. Then he started talking about the car, casual as anything. He hoped insurance would cover the full value. He hoped I had gap coverage. He hoped the adjuster wasn't one of those people who undervalue classics. The entitlement radiated off him like heat from asphalt. He actually started giving me advice about dealing with insurance companies, like he was some expert. This kid who'd never paid a premium in his life was explaining deductibles to me. Then he said something that made my eye twitch. He mentioned that his mom had told him about the college idea, and he thought it was pretty cool that I was considering it. Cool. $250,000. And it was cool. He said he was looking at majoring in business or maybe communications. Something easy, he said. Something that would leave time for his real passion, gaming. He talked about the accident like it was nothing. Actually said the Mustang was probably due for an upgrade anyway. Suggested maybe I should get something more practical, more modern. Maybe a Tesla, he said. Those were actually cool cars. The Mustang was nice for its time, but that time had passed. Every word was a needle. Every sentence a small betrayal. This kid I'd fed, clothed, supported for years, sitting in my house, drinking my Coke, telling me my father's car was obsolete. He left after an hour, said he had to get to his friend's house for a gaming tournament. $20 buy-in, he mentioned, looking at me expectantly. I gave him the 20. Of course I did. The ATM was still operational, barely. As he was leaving, he set his tablet on my kitchen counter while he tied his shoes. Then he walked out, leaving it behind. I noticed it 10 minutes later, sitting there like a black mirror on my granite countertop. I picked it up to run after him, but his car was already gone. I'd call him later, I figured. I set it on my dining room table and went back to wrestling with insurance forms. 2 hours later, as the sun was setting and I was nursing my third beer, the tablet lit up a notification. The preview was visible right there on the lock screen. No password needed, no snooping required. Just there, glowing in my dim dining room. It was from a group chat. The name of the group showed at the top. Family, no buzzkills. Buzzkills. That was me, apparently. The preview showed Kevin's message, truncated but clear enough. Can't wait to get TF out of here for college on Uncle ATM's dime. Mom says he's guilty about the car, so perfect timing. Oh, Uncle ATM. There was in glowing pixels. My identity in their little family group. Not Uncle Mark. Not even Uncle. Just ATM automated teller machine. Insert guilt, receive cash. I stood there, tab in my hand, staring at those words. The beer went flat in my other hand. The insurance form scattered on the table seemed suddenly irrelevant. Everything seemed irrelevant except those glowing words. LOL, laughing out loud. He was laughing about it. About me. About the car. About the $250,000 they expected me to cough up. It was all just one big joke to them. I set the tablet down gently. Didn't throw it. Didn't crack the screen. Just set it down and walked to my window. Outside, the oak tree still stood, blue paint still embedded in its bark. Unmoved. Unchanged. Unbothered. Something crystallized in that moment. You know how sometimes you can feel yourself changing? Like you can actually feel your personality restructuring itself? That was happening. All the guilt, all the obligation, all the twisted love that kept me in this role. It was burning away, not in hot anger, but in something colder, cleaner. I thought about Marcus Aurelius, another Roman philosopher I'd been reading. He wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says, or does." I'd been looking at what my family said, what they needed, what they expected for so long. I'd forgotten to look at what they actually thought of me. Now I knew. Uncle ATM, the buzzkill, the wallet with a pulse. I picked up the framed photo of Dad from my mantle. It was cracked from when Kevin had knocked it over last Christmas and never apologized. I looked at his face, frozen in time, smiling at some joke from 30 years ago. I spoke to the photo, quiet in my empty house. Told him I was sorry. Told him I tried. Told him that a promise to take care of someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. That there's a difference between helping family and being consumed by them. The tablet buzzed again. Another message in the preview. Sarah this time. He'll pay. He always does. Just keep working the guilt angle. The guilt angle. Like I was a mark in a con game. Like they were grifters, and I was the sucker who hadn't caught on yet. Except now I had. Now I saw it all with perfect, crystal clarity. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. Didn't even feel particularly sad. I felt empty, but it was a good empty. Like cleaning out a closet full of junk you've been holding on to for no reason. Space for something new. Something better. I knew what I was going to do. Not the details yet, but the shape of it. Thanksgiving was coming up. 3 weeks away. The family would gather at Mom's house. Like always. They'd all be there. Sarah, Kevin, Mom, various aunts and uncles. The whole production. They wanted to talk about Kevin's college fund. About investing in his future. About family helping family. Oh, we'd talk about it. We'd have a real family discussion about investments and returns and who owes what to whom. I picked up the tablet one more time. Took a photo of the screen with my phone. Evidence. Documentation. Then I set aside to return to Kevin tomorrow. Let him think I never saw it. Let them all think Uncle ATM was still operational, still dispensing, still available 24/7. The element of surprise would be mine. For once in my life, I wouldn't be the one reacting. I'd be the one acting. And when I did, when that moment came, the ATM wouldn't just close. It would shut down permanently. 3 weeks. 3 weeks to prepare. 3 weeks to gather 5 years of financial records. 3 weeks to craft my resignation from the First National Bank of Mark. I looked at the cracked photo of Dad one more time. This time, I could swear he was smiling a little wider. Like he understood. Like he knew that sometimes keeping a promise means knowing when to stop. The setting sun painted my living room orange and gold. Somewhere, Sarah was probably planning Kevin's college tour. Kevin was probably gaming, laughing with his friends about his uncle the sucker. Mom was probably knitting and thinking about how to guilt me more effectively. Let them plan. Let them laugh. Let them scheme. Thanksgiving was coming, and they had no idea what was coming with it. 3 weeks. That's all I had to prepare for what would either be my finest hour or my complete excommunication from the family. Honestly, I was good with either outcome. The first week after finding that message, I went dark. Complete radio silence. Ignored 17 calls from Sarah, 12 from Mom, even a few from Kevin, probably wondering about his tablet. Let them sweat. Let them wonder if their ATM was malfunctioning. Meanwhile, I was in my home office, doing what I do best, building systems. Only this time, instead of software architecture, I was architecting something else entirely. I pulled 5 years of bank statements, credit card records, Venmo transactions, Zelle transfers, every receipt I'd kept, every digital paper trail of my financial hemorrhaging. You'd be amazed what you can piece together when you really look at the data. Or horrified. I was both. The numbers started telling a story. Not the story my family had been selling me about temporary hardship and helping each other through tough times. No, this was a different narrative entirely. This was systematic. This was planned. This was a business model where I was both the investor and the product. I built it like a corporate presentation because that's what it was. The final quarterly report of Mark Incorporated, subsidiary of Family Guilt Enterprises. PowerPoint slides with animations. Pie charts in autumn colors, appropriate for Thanksgiving. Bar graphs that climbed to a number that made my stomach turn. $369,000 for $152.78. Every slide had a title. Q2 2020, Emergency Shopping Therapy Bailout. Q4 2021, The Great Gaming PC Investment. Q1 2023, Mom's mysterious medical bills that insurance somehow didn't cover. Corporate speak for family exploitation. It was beautiful in its clarity. Sarah called hourly by week 2. The messages evolved from confused, concerned to angry. How dare I ignore family? How dare I go silent when we had important matters to discuss? She actually left a voicemail saying Kevin's future hung in the balance, like he was teetering on a cliff, and only my checkbook could save him. Mom tried a different approach. She had my aunt call, then my uncle, then my cousin from Portland who I hadn't talked to in 3 years. The family phone tree was activated, all branches leading back to the same message. Mark needs to stop being selfish and call back. I didn't call back. I was too busy creating what I thought of as my masterpiece. See, it wasn't enough to just show the money. Anyone can throw numbers around. I needed context. I needed comparison. So I added industry standards. Did you know the average American family spends about $15,000 on a kid's college education? Not $240,000. Did you know the average emergency family loan is paid back within 2 years? Mine had a 0% return rate over 5 years. I found a study from MIT about family financial dynamics. Added those statistics to my slides. Made it academic. Made it undeniable. This wasn't emotion anymore. This was data. Cold, hard, brutal data. Thanksgiving morning arrived gray and cold, perfect backdrop for what was coming. I put on my best suit, the one I wore to Dad's funeral. Seemed appropriate. I loaded my laptop, my portable projector, and a folder of printed receipts into my car. The drive to Mom's house took 30 minutes. I spent it listening to Johnny Cash's Hurt. Also seemed appropriate. The house smelled exactly like you'd expect. Turkey, stuffing, that weird green bean casserole that nobody actually likes but everyone makes. Norman Rockwell would have painted this scene, except he probably wouldn't have included the portable projector in my bag or the resignation letter in my pocket. They were all there. Sarah, dramatically positioned near the kitchen like she'd been cooking, she hadn't. Kevin, absorbed in his phone on the couch. Mom, bustling around with that nervous energy that meant she knew something was coming. Various aunts and uncles scattered around like extras in a family sitcom. Sarah pounced first. She rushed over, all fake concern and real irritation. She said they'd been so worried that I could have been dead in a ditch somewhere. I told her I'd been fine, just busy with a project. She asked what kind of project was more important than family. I told her she'd see soon enough. We sat down to dinner at 2 o'clock sharp. Mom's good china, the stuff that only came out twice a year. Everyone was trying so hard to act normal that it actually became abnormal. Like watching bad community theater where everyone knows their lines, but nobody believes them. Mom said grace. Thanked God for family, for health, for bringing everyone together. Then she added a special thanks that I had come to my senses and joined them. Come to my senses. Like I'd been the crazy one. We made it through turkey and small talk. Aunt Linda asked about my work. Uncle Pete told the same fishing story he'd been telling since 1987. Kevin didn't look up from his phone once, even while eating. Sarah kept shooting me meaningful looks, trying to telegraph that we needed to talk about the college situation. Mom just watched everyone with that matriarch smile that said she was holding this together through sheer will. Then, right as Mom was about to bring out the pie, she made her move. She announced that before dessert, we should discuss family business. Specifically, Kevin's future. Everyone nodded like this was spontaneous, not scripted. Sarah actually said it was perfect timing, since everyone was here to support this important decision. That was my cue. I stood up, reached into my bag, and pulled out the projector. The room went silent. Not normal silent. That thick, oppressive silent that happens when everyone realizes something unexpected is happening. I set it up on the coffee table, pointed at the white wall where Mom's Live, Laugh, Love sign usually hung. I'd taken it down earlier, when nobody was looking. Sarah asked what I was doing. I told her I was about to give a presentation on investments and returns, just like she wanted. The first slide appeared. Family Financial Dynamics, a 5-year retrospective analysis. I used my corporate voice, the one I use when presenting to CEOs. Calm, professional, detached. I clicked to the second slide. Executive Summary, Total Investment 2020 to 2025. The number appeared in 72-point font. $369,000 for $152.78. I heard Mom gasp. Kevin actually looked up from his phone. I explained that since we were discussing major financial decisions regarding education, I felt it necessary to review historical data to inform future investments. Then I clicked to the next slide. Category breakdown. Emergency bailouts versus lifestyle subsidization. The pie chart was damning. 73% lifestyle support, 27% actual emergencies, and even the emergencies were questionable. Sarah's car repairs had happened right after she posted Instagram photos from Vegas. Mom's medical bills that mysteriously matched the cost of her new living room furniture. Slide by slide, I walked them through it. Q2 2020. Sarah's credit card bailout, $3,200. Stated reason, COVID hardship. Actual reason, revealed by social media, online shopping addiction. Q3 2021. Kevin's gaming computer, $2,500, promised return. He'd go pro and pay me back double. Actual return. 15th place in a local tournament with a $50 prize he spent on energy drinks. The room was tomb silent, except for my voice and the click of the slides. I showed them the trend lines, the payment patterns. Always an emergency on the first of the month. Always a crisis right before holidays. The data didn't lie, even if they did. Sarah tried to interrupt when I hit the slide about her divorce lawyer fees that I'd paid. $45,000. She said that wasn't fair. That was a special circumstance. I agreed. I said it was special how she'd hidden assets from that lawyer while crying poverty to me. Then I showed the next slide. Her hidden savings account I found through a mutual friend at the bank. $15,000 sitting there while she was calling me about shut-off notices. Mom stood up, shaking. She said this was inappropriate, that this was not how family handled things. I agreed again. I said family didn't handle things by treating one member like a combination of Santa Claus and a punching bag. Then came the grand finale. The slide everyone would remember. A screenshot of Kevin's group chat message, blown up on the wall. Uncle ATM in 48-point font. The room collectively stopped breathing. I let it sit there for 30 seconds. 30 seconds of that message burning into everyone's retinas. Then I clicked to the next slide. Termination of services. I explained, still in that CEO voice, that after careful analysis, I was terminating all financial operations effective immediately. No more transfers. No more bailouts. No more loans that weren't loans. The First National Bank of Mark was permanently closed. Then I pulled out the printed invoice. $18,000 for the Mustang repairs. I placed it in front of Kevin, who looked like he'd been slapped. I told him this was his debt, his responsibility, his first lesson in adult consequences. He actually stammered that he didn't have that kind of money. I told him nobody did. That's why they got jobs. Sarah exploded. Full nuclear meltdown. Screaming about betrayal, about selfishness, about how I destroyed the family. She actually said I was just like Dad, which was supposed to be an insult, but I took as a compliment. She said I'd regret this when I died alone with my precious money. Mom was crying, but not the gentle tears of a grandmother. These were angry tears. She said I had broken her heart, that she never thought her son could be so cruel. Cruel. $369,000 of cruel, apparently. Kevin found his voice. Said I couldn't make him pay for the car, that he was family. I pulled out my phone, showed him the police report where he admitted to taking it without permission and distracted driving. Told him he was lucky I wasn't pressing charges. The $18,000 was a gift compared to a criminal record. Uncle Pete tried to play peacemaker. Said everyone should calm down, that this could be worked out. I told him he was welcome to contribute to Kevin's college fund if he felt that strongly. He shut up immediately. I packed up my projector while they all screamed and argued, not with me, with each other. Sarah blamed Mom for raising me wrong. Mom blamed Sarah for taking advantage. Kevin blamed everyone for making this about money when it was about his future. The beautiful symphony of a dysfunctional family, realizing the music had stopped. As I headed for the door, Sarah made one last play. She said Dad would be ashamed of me. I stopped, turned around, and delivered my final slide, no projector needed. I told them Dad taught me the value of hard work, the importance of family, and the difference between helping and enabling. I said I'd honored his memory by supporting them for 5 years, but I'd be dishonoring it if I continued funding their exploitation of his death. That shut everyone up. The last thing I heard as I walked out was Sarah screaming that I was dead to her. The door closing on that sound was the most satisfying click of my life. I sat in my rental car for a moment in their driveway. My phone was already buzzing with texts. I turned it off, tossed it in the glove compartment. Then I drove home in perfect silence, watching the sun set over the mountains. Back home, I blocked every single one of them. Phone, email, social media. Complete scorched earth. The first night was weird. Quiet. No guilt calls, no emergency texts, no manipulation masquerading as love. Just me and silence. The first week, I mostly slept. 5 years of exhaustion hitting all at once. The second week, I started the Mustang restoration. Not frantically, not desperately, but methodically. Every bolt, every panel, every why was meditation. I wasn't fixing a car. I was rebuilding myself. 3 months later, I ran into my cousin Janet at Costco. She gave me the update I didn't ask for. Sarah had to sell her house, moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, got a second job at Target. Kevin was working at Burger King to pay for community college and the car debt. Mom was telling everyone I'd abandoned the family, but nobody was buying it after word got out about the money. I invested what I used to give them into my own dreams. Started that app I'd been designing for years. Hired 2 developers. We launched 6 months later to decent success. Not Facebook money, but enough to prove I could build something beyond other people's expectations. But the real victory was the Mustang. Took me a full year, but she came back better than before. Midnight black paint job that looked like liquid glass. Chrome that could blind you at 50 yards. Engine that purred like a metallic lion. She wasn't just restored. She was reborn. The first real drive was everything I dreamed. Route 66, just like the brochure promised. 2 weeks of nothing but road, sky, and Bruce Springsteen on the radio. Stopped at every cheesy roadside attraction. Ate at diners where the coffee was terrible and the pie was magnificent. Somewhere outside Amarillo, watching the sunset paint the desert orange and pink, I had a thought. There really is a thin line between kindness and self-destruction. The difference is whether you're holding the wheel or just along for the ride. I posted one photo from that trip on social media. Just a Mustang on an empty highway, mountains in the distance. Caption, Sometimes the best investment is in yourself. Sarah saw it somehow, despite being blocked. Must have used a friend's account. She sent one last message through LinkedIn of all places. Said I looked happy, hoped it was worth it. I didn't respond, but I did smile. Because yes, it was worth it. Every damn penny. That was 2 years ago. The app's doing well. The Mustang still purrs. I'm dating someone who's never once asked me for money, but did ask me to teach her how to change her own oil. Mom sent a Christmas card last year through my office. No return address, just thinking of you. I kept it. Not sure why. Kevin paid off the card debt last month. Sent me a cashier's check with a note. Debt cleared. Learned the lesson. No apology. But I didn't need one. The check cleared. That was enough. Sometimes people ask if I regret cutting them off, if I miss my family. I tell them I miss who I thought they were, not who they actually were. That's the thing about family. Sometimes the best thing you can do for everyone is stop enabling the worst in each other. The Mustang sits in my garage now, under a cover, waiting for the next road trip. Sometimes I just sit in it, not driving anywhere, just remembering. Not Dad, not the accident, not the drama. Just the freedom of that first drive when it was finally just mine. There's an old saying, blood is thicker than water. But nobody mentions that blood can also drain you dry if you're not careful. And water? Water flows. Water finds its own level. Water knows when to change course. I chose to be water, and I've never looked back, only forward, through a pristine windshield, toward whatever horizon I choose. The ATM is closed permanently, but the road is wide open.